And hello again from Fox News in Washington. With new developments this week from Iran to Afghanistan to Homeland Security, joined by the leaders of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Dianne Feinstein and Vice Chair Christopher Bond. Welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you, Chris.
Let's start with Iran and the disclosure that it has been building a secret nuclear enrichment facility. Let me start with you, Senator Feinstein. How strong is the evidence that this is to provide fuel for a bomb, and how sure are we that there aren't other secret facilities in Iran?
Well, the evidence is strong that there is such a facility, that it's capable of about 3,000 various, I've lost the word. Centrifuges. We don't know that it's going for enrichment to HEU precisely.
Enriched uranium.
Yes, but we've known it's been there. I think what the three countries have done, the United States, United Kingdom, France, is a very straightforward charge to Iran to sit down this next week, be open to negotiate a solution and to do so. And I think this is the moment of decision for Iran. Iran can either make itself a pariah, or it can recognize that it has much more gain by eliminating any potential military aspects of a nuclear program, seeing that all peaceful aspects of a nuclear program are carefully inspected, supervised.
Let me follow up on that, if I can, with you, Senator Bond. Just this morning, the Iranians have test-fired short-range missiles, which seems to be another provocation. The U.S., as Senator Feinstein said, the U.S. and our allies are going to meet with the Iranians Thursday to try to stop their nuclear program or face economic sanctions. Confident are you that even if we can get the Russians and the Chinese on board for sanctions, the Iranians will stand down, that they'll stop their nuclear program, especially in light of this new provocation?
First, we have seen now Iran 3 times lied to us about what they're doing. They've been caught in bald-faced lies. Now, the facility they've set up potentially could be for peaceful purposes. But why was it so heavily guarded? Why was it surrounded by the elite Iranian Republican Guard? Why did they deny its existence? Today's action in firing the missiles is really a poke in the eye to those who think that diplomatic efforts and agreements and inspections are going to change the way that Iran is going. I think as a show-me state senator, they've shown us enough. Much of it through speeches by Ahmadinejad saying, wipe Israel off the face of the earth. He has launched the missiles to show that they're taking seriously.
So are you saying you don't think sanctions are going to work?
I think sanctions, we have to have sanctions, and we have to have strong sanctions, economic sanctions that force either a regime change or the Ayatollah change their policy. I'm a co-sponsor of a measure by Senator Lieberman to give the power to the president to impose sanctions on tankers taking refined petroleum to Iran. That's something we can do along with Treasury sanctions, but we need Russia and China. Real question whether they will actually go along.
Let me another way, Senator Feinstein. Defense Secretary Gates says that even if we launched a military strike, it would only buy us 1 to 3 more years, buy us a little more time, but only a couple of years, if Iran is determined to continue its nuclear program. Do you share Secretary Gates's pessimism about the effectiveness of military action?
I do. We have been told that specifically, and I think you slow it down. Whether you can stop it or not entirely, I think is unknown. The facilities are in several different places. Some are hardened underground in tunnels. You'd have to have a ground operation as well as a military operation, and that's very difficult too. It would be an attack.
Troops on the ground in addition to an air strike?
To get into some of them, to really penetrate them. So that's not to say that a nation can't stop it. It is to say that it is a much better alternative to sit down and negotiate. There's nothing positive for Iran becoming a military nuclear power for any country in the world. It becomes a major pariah, a major threat, and I think in the Middle East, it creates enormous and potentially catastrophic consequences.
Let me turn, if we...
Well, I would agree with that. The election riot, the continuing unrest in Iran shows that there are a significant body of Iranian people who don't like the direction they're going. And that's why I think that strong economic sanctions, which have to be applied by the world community, not just us, we can make an impact, are the best way to go. No one wants to see us use military power, but as Senator Feinstein said, a nuclear-armed Iran would be a disaster for the world.
Let's turn to Afghanistan, where we learned this week that the President Obama's commander on the ground, General McChrystal, is warning that if he doesn't get more troops, our mission there will likely result in failure. But the White House is saying not so fast. I want to take you both, Senators, 6 months ago today when the President made this statement.
Today I'm announcing a comprehensive new strategy for Afghanistan and Pakistan. We have a clear and focused goal to dismantle and defeat al-Qaeda in Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Senator Bono, just 6 months later, President Obama says he wants another strategy review. At least we learned today from the National Security Advisor, at least 5 meetings over 4 weeks, no deadline, and that in the end he may reject his commander's urgent request. Senator Bono being flexible or being indecisive?
I'm afraid it's indecisive. I supported President Obama very strongly when he came out 6 months ago, and when he gave General McChrystal a charge to launch a full-blown counterinsurgency strategy like one we finally launched successfully under Petraeus in Iraq. It brought us to the progress we have seen. Dithering right now and delaying troops, as General McChrystal, I spent a wonderful afternoon reading his assessment, which is very thorough, and he lays out the fact that we need resources, troops now, because the next 9 to 12 months will be decisive. We are not going to get the Afghan National Security Forces built up in that time. We need to move their training forward.
You said dithering. Is that what you believe the president's doing?
I'm afraid that for some reason he has the answer that he asked, to the question he asked of General McChrystal. It's here, it is clear, it is in great detail, outlines a full range of things, why we need troops now, and he said if we fail to provide that assistance now, it will be too late.
Senator Feinstein, I want to play a clip from Secretary of State Clinton this week where she was about and discussed General McChrystal's request for more troops. Here it is.
There are other assessments from, very ex-military analysts who have worked in counterinsurgencies that are the exact opposite.
We're talking about the president's commander on the ground, whom he personally assigned to this mission 6 years ago. Should he just be one of a group of analysts who the president consults in a strategy review?
No, of course not, and he isn't. A full-blown counterinsurgency structure, strategy, tactic. I've read it too. To me, it's a 10-year plan. I think the president is correct to take his time to really examine what alternatives are at this time. True, the Afghanistan strategy so far has not gone well. True, about 1/3 of Afghanis are now living under some form of Taliban control. That is untenable. True, there is some nexus between al-Qaeda and the Taliban. True, that represents a threat to the homeland of the United States and therefore creates a mission that's important for the United States. Also true that you have a central government which is unreliable, not very competent in Afghanistan. I'll leave it at that. Now, the question comes, is there an alternative to this long-term, comprehensive, full-blown counterinsurgency strategy, which he has laid out? I hope there is, because I do not believe the American people want to be in Afghanistan for the next 10 years, effectively nation building, building schools, building a government,
let me pick up, and I know this is something that you feel very strongly about, Senator. Should General McChrystal be called to testify before Congress, or should it wait until after the strategy review, which is what Secretary of Defense Gates says?
We've waited too many months now, and he said it is absolutely critical. I think that General McChrystal has a viewpoint that has been thoroughly discussed among all of the people who are on the ground and know what's happening. I believe, based on all I've learned and all I've heard, anything of fully resourcing counterinsurgency strategy with additional troops, a change in philosophy, a change to focus on local areas.
But why have him testify when the leadership hasn't decided what to do?
Because we're part of that process as well. And I think the American people deserve to know in a little bit shorter form what he has said. There are pundits on the outside who say we can do something different. But let me tell you this, from everything I've heard and everything I've learned, short of the full-blown strategy that McChrystal has outlined, if we try just shooting at terror, going back to the camp, then the Taliban will come back over the border from Pakistan. They will bring them their friends in Al-Qaeda, and they will reestablish Taliban control of Afghanistan, which is a disaster in the region.
I want to move on to something else, but I just have to ask you to respond quickly. Do you think that General McChrystal should testify before the president has made up his mind?
I think it's always useful to different points of view. I don't have a problem with that. But look, the president is the commander-in-chief. He should take his time and do the right thing here, whatever it may be. I do not believe, the election in Afghanistan has not been concluded. How it ends, the strength of the central government, that's very important to the mission. And, if Israel doesn't shape up, a lot of people have questions as to whether anything can really be a success in that country.
Let me on. There have been at least 3 separate attacks that have been uncovered here in the U.S. just the last week. Now, several provisions in the Patriot Act are set to expire at the end of the year. Senator Bond, is this any time to take weapons away from our agencies that are protecting the homeland?
Clearly it's not. And the weapons that are the tools that are under discussion are vitally important tools in discovering and exposing and attacking these terrorist acts. And you didn't add the one of the Carolina people who were planning to attack Quantico. So there really have been, therefore, that shows the existence of American citizens who've been trained in Pakistan are threatening our country. And the tools in the Patriot Act, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that I worked on for the last couple of years are absolutely critical tool now. We must have them. We can't weigh them down with any more delaying procedures.
About a minute left. Senator Feinstein, I want to throw one other thing into the hopper. The White House is now acknowledging they almost certainly are not going to meet their deadline by next January for closing the prison at Guantanamo. And there is a story today that indicates they are close to making a decision to send some of the detainees, the 223 detainees, to locations here in the U.S. Will Congress allow that?
Well, as you know, I'm one that believes very strongly Guantanamo should be closed, and I believe it can be done. I'm also one that's somewhat familiar with prison structure in the United States, and I know that there are maximum security prisons from which no one escapes in the United States, which are isolated from neighborhoods, and no one is going to put people in anyone's neighborhood, as some have.
So you're okay with having some of these detainees in California?
Yes. A maximum security prison, I don't worry about it, provided the prison is set up, accommodated, and I believe we have facilities that are.
Senator Bond, you get the last word.
This is one of the areas on which Senator Feinstein and I disagree. Guantanamo is the best place to hold these hardened criminals. We don't want to put them in our general population where they have and will radicalize other prisoners. They will draw their friends in Al-Qaeda to come into the area from the outside. I wouldn't be seeing them at Alcatraz, but my California friends have a minimum amount of high enthusiasm for that. But if they're transferred to the Federal Springfield, Missouri medical facility in my state, and my constituents and I think that would be a very bad idea.
Senator Feinstein, Senator Bond, I want to thank you both so much for coming in, discussing these very important issues with us. Please back both of you.
Thank you very much.
Just ask. We'll be back. Thank you very much.
But it's a date. Up next.